Hello, Atlanta Realtor members and the Atlanta community. I am Karen Hatcher, the 2022 president for the Atlanta Realtors Association, and I am so honored to be here with Jenny Pruitt today to sit down with her and talk about her incredible real estate career. She is an Atlanta icon and real estate legend and trailblazer in this industry and has inspired me throughout my real estate journey here, and I just want to share her story with you today. It is Women's History Month, and I hope you all are inspired by her story as well. I'm going to read her bio, and I don't want to miss a beat, so because it's super detailed and it's pretty impressive. So I'm going to read that to you now. Jenny Pruitt is a third-generation Atlantan, community advocate, philanthropist, author, painter, and respected nationally as a visionary real estate leader. Her strong business acumen has led more than 5 distinguished decades of success in the Atlanta residential real estate arena. Jenny began her career in real estate in 1968 before establishing Jenny Pruitt and Associates in 1998. In 2007, she and her business partner, David Bamig, opened Atlanta Fine Homes Sotheby's International Realty. The company has over 500 agents, 5 offices, and are among the most accomplished real estate professionals in Metro Atlanta, with over $4.7 billion in sales in 2021. Atlanta Fine Homes is the #1 brokerage in Metro Atlanta for 2022 and all price points in all areas of Metro Atlanta. She is a recipient of numerous accolades, including Atlanta Realtors Association's E.A. Isaacson Award, the Sally Washburn Lifetime Achievement Award, Realtor of the Year in 1980, the Georgia Small Business Person of the Year, and is an inductee into the Business Hall of Fame at Georgia State University, the YWCA Academy of Women Achievers, and the Junior Achievement Hall of Fame. Jenny was also the 2016 recipient of the 4-Pillar Award from the Council for Quality Growth, which recognizes the pillars to be quality, responsibility, vision, and integrity, and celebrates her philanthropic endeavors as well as significant contributions to economic development in Metro Atlanta. Jenny is committed to helping Atlanta maintain its exceptional quality of life through her philanthropic service, humanitarian support, and volunteer commitments. She is active with Habitat for Humanity, serves on the Board of Counselors for the Carter Center, and the Board of Directors of the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. She is also a director at the Buckhead Coalition. And in 2015, Jenny released her book, Beneath His Wings. If you have not read this, pick this up. We're going to get more into this later. Which follows her walk of faith in the marketplace while offering guidance and inspiration. Jenny and her husband, Bob, have been married for more than 50 years. They have 2 daughters, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-granddaughter. Please join me in welcoming Jenny Pruitt. We hope you enjoy it.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Well, really, it's my honor to be here. And while you were reading that, I was thinking to myself, well, who is that woman? Where did she get all that time? And she's been here a long time. And then I realized that you're reading my bio. But thank you so much, and I appreciate you asking me to be a part of this.
Thank you for being such an inspiration to us all.
Yes.
So to start out, we're going to talk about who you are. How did you get into real estate?
Well, ironically enough, my mother was in real estate, sales, but she was never extremely successful. So I kept thinking, oh, well, I don't know if I want to do real estate because it's not her passion. And but she kept encouraging me, and she would always say, "You're so smart." Well, I didn't think I was, but I started believing I was smart because she kept encouraging me. And then I got married in 1966, so this will be 56th year we've been married, and he encouraged me. My husband Bob encouraged me to get into the business, and I never tested well, so he coached me all the way through the test. And I missed the first. I didn't make it on the first try. I missed by 1 point. And that was the time when they didn't tell you your score for 3 days. I think now you know the minute you finish. But he kept coaching me, and I finally passed it, and I went in sales with Northside Realty. With Johnny Isaacson was there in Northside Realty, and I went in sales from 68 to 76.
Wow. So all of you aspiring real estate agents out there that are wanting to come be realtors and get your license, because we know there are many of you, with almost 13,000 members, we are growing at rapid speed. But you hear, she took the test twice and look what she has built, right? The opportunities are endless. This is why her story is so incredible. So you started with Northside Realty. What inspired you to open Jenny Pruitt and Associates?
Well, I was with Northside till 1976, and I went with another company to be their senior VP, which was Buckhead Brokers. Now, both of those companies have been bought up by another huge company, and their names aren't in existence anymore. But I was a manager for Buckhead Brokers for 5 years as senior VP, and then in 1988, a friend of mine who had been head of the commercial division of Northside Realty called me and said, "Jenny, I've got a really good friend that would like to put you in business." And I said, "Well, Ed," his name was Ed, I'm not really interested, because I've got this great office. It's the #1 in Atlanta with 90 wonderful associates, and I just don't think I'm interested." So he said, "Well, just think about it, and I'll call you, and we'll go have lunch with this venture capitalist." So I said, okay, and I went home and I told my husband that, and he said, "You know, you should never close the door on opportunity until you see what's on the other side." So I went back to my office, and my friend called me again. He was very persistent, and he said, "We would like to take you to lunch, and what about tomorrow?" And thinking about what my husband said, I said, okay, well, we'll go tomorrow. And then I went home, told Bob, and he said, "Okay, this is important. If you love where you are, but if you're going to do it here, you tell him there's 3 things that will make up your mind." And those 3 things are that he will put up all of the capital, he will give you 51% of the ownership, and total control. And he said if he's really serious and he really wants you, he'll do it. And I told Bob, I said, well, he's just going to think I'm half crazy to suggest that. Nobody's going to put up all the money and give you majority ownership. So I went to lunch, and he's a very decisive person. His name was Kim King. He was a big football star at Georgia Tech, a very large developer throughout Georgia. And before we got the menus, he said, "Well, what would it take to get you? Because I have decided that your reputation is impeccable, and you're the one that I want to open up a real estate company." And I told him what Bob said. You know, he'd put up all the investment, he'd give me 51% ownership and total control, but I added a 4th one. And I said, and allow my husband to be the chief financial officer, because Bob has a background in finance, and I have a background in sales and people and all communication and all that. And here's a very important thing for anyone watching this, is you need to know what you do well and hire people unto your weaknesses, because you can't be all things to all people. And I knew that I couldn't handle the finance part and grow the company.
Yeah.
So my husband was, so Kim said, well, I've never merged a company, bought a company, started a company that I have given what you just said, total control, 51%, and put up all the money. So he said, but you know, I really want to do this, and you're the person to do it. And he said, because you said number 4, that your husband would handle the finances, that even impresses me more, because you know what you can do and you know what you can't do, because it's not your gift.
That's right.
And so that started Jenny Pruitt and Associates in 1988. And unbeknownst to me, when I announced the company, and also Kim King said, we want your name on the door. So that's why it was Jenny Pruitt and Associates. And within 2 weeks, 35 people from my previous company had followed me. 35 top producers had followed me, and that kind of started us off. And then we got into a recession. So 88, we actually started January of '89. So that was tough for a year or two, but we still grew.
Wow.
And so we had that company till 2001, and Home Services, which is Warren Buffett's company, contacted us and started talking about selling Jenny Pruitt and Associates to them. And we really weren't thinking about selling, but we started talking about it, and then we almost reached an agreement, and September the 11th happened. And my husband's, and we kind of came to a standstill because there was one sticking point that they didn't want to give on, and it was a big one. And so my husband says, as we're driving to a GAR convention at Grove Park Inn, he said, well, we should have taken that offer because we probably won't see it again. You know, everybody thought the world was coming to an end. And I said, oh, well, if it's meant to be, it will be. And while we were there, he called on September the 12th and said, we are ready to meet you with your offer, that what you came back, we're ready to take you up on it.
Wow. We
want to buy your company. We closed 30 days later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible, with one of the wealthiest men in the world.
Yeah, and that was Jenny Pruitt and Associates.
Yes.
And I had a 5-year contract. Wow. And I worked out that contract and left in January of '07. And Sotheby's was looking for an affiliate in Atlanta. And they usually don't associate with startup companies. They usually want companies that have been around a while and, you know, have a book of business, so to speak. And we were starting from the ground. And but they kept talking to us, and in March or April of that year, we did strike an agreement. And then David left Jenny Pruitt and Associates and came over as president of the company.
And the rest is history. Yeah. This is where we are today with Atlanta Fine Homes. And so she just dropped a lot of gems on us right there about entrepreneurship, about growing your business, about how to work with family, about knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, about starting a business, selling a business, and then relaunching a business. If you want to know more details about that story, it is in her book. So please pick this up, and just how the strength that she was able to pull from to go through all of these endeavors and moving through her life and her business and with family. It's all in this book. So definitely you can hear more about that story there. So thank you. Incredible. I remember driving by. I got licensed in 2007. I came to Atlanta in 1998, and I remember I would always drive on the highway. In your sign, you can see it right from the highway. Jenny Pruitt and Associates was on the side of the building, and I would always see it. And I would always say, wow, that is a woman-owned company, and she is like, everybody can see it. And I loved that. It's like you get out there and you're bold and you're good, and your reputation precedes you, right? People know you, which is why they always came to you, and why people left with you. And you had 35 top producers, you said, that came with you, and you're able to continue to succeed. That is pretty incredible. So many mothers, just like myself, we have daughters, and Girl Scouts has been around for such a long time. I'm the mother of 2 daughters and 1 stepdaughter, and one is a Girl Scout. The other one will be starting this year because she's in pre-K. She'll be in kindergarten and she can start. You were the #1 Girl Scout in the state of Georgia, in the state at one point. How has that reflected in your business career? What lessons did you learn from that?
Now, you didn't say what I was #1 in. You know what I was #1 in?
Cookie sales, cookie sales.
Oh, I love those. I love those cookies. I can't resist them today. But I was, yes, I was a brownie first, and I loved it when it was the brownie time to meet. And then I went on to being a Girl Scout, and I guess that is the first time that I had ever sold anything. And I was extremely successful. I sold the most boxes of cookies. I didn't know that for a while until about 5 years after it happened, and they told me that they were celebrating that I was #1. I thought it was kind of funny, but you know what it did? It really taught me how to ask for an order, and that's good. You know, it took away the fear of selling
Yeah.
And even though it was just a little cookie box, it was sort of the beginning. So combined with my mother saying, "You're so smart," and me selling Girl Scout cookies, I guess I came up with, I can do this.
You can do it, and you did do it, and are doing it, because she is still out there and still in this business, so, and still, making change and showing people the way and leading the way with her brokerage. So, to all the mothers out there with all the brownies, I have a brownie as well. You see, we just got to stay with it. So, and sometimes
it teaches them to be leaders.
That's
I think it's great leadership, lessons.
Definitely.
Yes.
My daughter came with my brownie. She came with a goal this year that was so huge. And I was like, okay, so we're going to have a business plan. You're going to do video, because you can't just set a goal and not have actions behind it. So I agree with that. You got to come up with a strategy.
Right.
So, but to be #1 at sales in the state is so impressive. And it was foreshadowing for her career, right?
At 12 years old, yeah.
Yes, incredible. So as a woman in business, what obstacles have you had to overcome being a woman?
Well, I had to really think about that. And I have to tell you that I can't really think of any obstacles, because I guess one reason is I think of obstacles as opportunities. Yeah. So I never focus on them being obstacles. And I would think if you were starting your own business, one of the things that would be an obstacle is if you couldn't find the right financing, or the interest rates were too high, or the banks didn't really believe in you as much as you did yourself. But I didn't have to do that, because Kim King was putting up all the millions of dollars to start Jenny Pruitt and Associates. And then when we sold Jenny Pruitt and Associates, we had family finances that started Atlanta Fine Homes. And I guess one of the greatest obstacles that I think about it is the first 4 years that we started Atlanta Fine Homes, 2007 till the beginning of 2011, was the downtime of the recession. Yeah. And that was very interesting, and because for 3.5 years we had invested all of our family, David's and my finances, into the business to get it going, and there were no commissions coming in. Yeah. And agents were getting discouraged. And I'll never forget this. We got so excited because we were chosen to handle a lot of REOs. Yep. That's a very difficult business when you're working with the third-party companies and REOs. But my agents just wanted to sell. Yep. And so they would, even the best ones would take on the REOs. Yep. But that was a very difficult time for everybody, not, of course, just us. But when you're starting a company, because when we started in January of 2007, we did not realize there was going to be a recession. I mean, when we started talking in January, formed the company in May, we did not. So that would have been an obstacle. But I will say this: when I started in '88 owning my own company, there were no other women owners of real estate companies. Maybe 1 or 2 scattered out that were real tiny. Miss Harry Norman was the first one in Atlanta, almost 100 years ago. Yeah. Now talk about courageous and brilliant she had to be, starting with one little office and see what her company has been. She's been gone a long time, but I didn't have her to be a mentor. It would have been good if I'd had some women mentors. And I would say, if you're going to start your own company, find someone that you can foreshadow and, really learn what they're doing and can be there to answer any questions.
Definitely. And you talked a little bit about evolving and how when you hit hard times, you took on different types of sales. 2007, I got licensed. I sold my first house, and then the bottom fell out of the market. And then I got immediately into the investment space. So I remember those times. And then when I decided to go full time into real estate, it was 2011. And that was a hard time in real estate as well. And so you've had the ability to evolve over the years. And there's a passage in here which I loved, because you talk about that. And it states on page 26, she says, "I thank him for supernatural wisdom in all business and personal decisions. I sense that he has led with spot-on precision as the company has continued to evolve with the times." And because I've always have been inspired by the way you have evolved your business and moved through the times, and reading your story about how you've been able to adapt as the market changes. And even now, as we get where diversity is a big thing, right? Since 2020, it really highlighted the positive side of diversity and how diversity is good for business and we can all do a better job. And in 2021, the Atlanta Realtors Association initiated a public apology to all of our Black realtors, African American realtors here in Atlanta, for playing a part in the exclusionary history of the National Association of Realtors here in the local market. And when we shot that video, you were there. And you and a lot of your brokers were there. Why was it important for you all to be there?
Well, we felt like that it was time to really focus on this. As we look back, businesses were not focused. I think they just didn't think about it. But we need to think about it, and we felt like it was a statement that we wanted to make to our Black brothers and sisters. Yeah. And we also thought that it would set the example for other companies, other real estate companies, other businesses, to know that we felt that way, that we wanted to make that statement. And we were so glad that we were there. In fact, I think we almost had 100% of our brokers, and our CEO, David, and me. Yeah. And we dropped everything, moved everything, because we thought it was such a good idea that letter of apology was there, well deserved, and should have been there a lot sooner. But we were very glad that we could be there.
Yes.
And that started our diversity efforts in our company. So now we have a DEI task force. We have outside consultants working with us on it. We are so excited about everything we've done. We have given numerous contributions, financial contributions, to universities and to organizations that support and really work on this DEI effort. We have had role playing. We have had lots of educational sessions. We're having something we're very excited about in June. Maybe we'll celebrate in Juneteenth, but it's on June 14th, and it's at the Civil Rights Museum.
Wow.
Yes, Museum of Civil Rights. And
oh my goodness,
Civil and Human Rights, yes.
Amazing. I'm getting chills while she's talking, because that was also one of the things that I admired. Where I had to have this interview because the owners were present when we did the apology last year, and it was a big statement, and it did not go unnoticed. And being the first African American woman president of the Atlanta Realtors Association, I wanted to recognize what it means to be present, what it means to acknowledge, and what it means to, when a company says, you know what, we can do better. Wow. Let's do some things differently. Let's educate our leadership. Let's educate our team. And as they've made these initiatives at Sotheby's, I definitely wanted to just highlight what leadership looks like and how to lead in the space and be more inclusive. So thank you for your leadership in that space and for being present and all you're doing to continue diversity and inclusion for all when it comes to real estate. So thank you.
Yes.
Wow. So hearing all your efforts with diversity and inclusion is just incredible. So talk to me about including faith into your company. And I am a praying woman. I am a believer. I pray multiple times a day as well. And so I was really connected to your book as well from that aspect, and how you use faith to guide you through all of the times, the triumphs as well as the sacrifices. So in a time where religion is often used to be divisive or excluding people, how have you been able to grow and evolve your company and be inclusive and still have faith be such a part of the culture?
Well, I'll tell you what, it goes back to 1977 when I was a young manager with Northside Realty. And at that time, our family was going to First Baptist Church with Dr. Charles Stanley. And he had a mission conference. And I was sitting in my pew, and I wanted to go down so bad to the front and give my life to foreign missions. And I nudged my husband, and he said, I'm not feeling that call. And I thought, doggone, we've got 2 children, but I really want to go down, and because it was just so compelling, and I just could see myself doing that. So the next week, I had become very good friends with Dr. Stanley, and so I called him and I said, oh, that was a great mission conference, but I've just got to tell you, I wanted to come down there so bad and give my life to go into foreign mission somewhere in the world. And he said, what did your husband have to say about that? And I said, he said he didn't feel the call. And he said, well, first of all, Jenny, if God calls you, he's going to call your husband first, because he's the head of the family under God, that umbrella. And he said, and he wouldn't have just called one person of the family and not, both. And he said, but I want you to open your eyes where you are, because you're in the middle of a mission field, because you're in the business world. You're in the marketplace. I want you to go back to your office, and I want you to think of serving your people, serving your people. And he said, and just influence them. Whatever you do, you're an example and a role model, and you're going to influence them. And he said, I want you to think of your business as the platform that God has given you. And you're in a ministry because you're in the marketplace. What we have in our marketplace right now in this world is so needed. Well, I went back to my office and I never thought about my business in the same way ever again. And I just started opening my eyes around me. And it was amazing how God used me as a light in a dark world. And so when I started Johnny Pruitt and Associates, my husband and I really prayed that if it was God's will, that all the obstacles would be moved, and that we would just see the path clear, and that it would be God where God wanted us to be, because it would be our platform for ministry. Of course, doing our business, but being an example. So that worked beautifully, and God gave me a verse to give other business owners, other real estate owners, agents, employees, and that is Proverbs 16:3. If you commit your work to the Lord, your plans will succeed. It didn't say may succeed, it said will succeed.
Amen.
Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will succeed. He also taught me something else. It wasn't in the Bible, maybe in a verse somewhere, but if you care about your people first, the bottom line will come. Don't think about the bottom line. Think about the people that God's given you to serve, and serve them, and He'll take care of the bottom line. He is faithful, so faithful. And so we prayed about the journey. Then when we got ready to sell the company, we prayed about that, and God just opened up all the doors. He has been such a faithful. He's been a faithful God, and He's really taught me how to serve others. I thought I knew, but I really didn't until He's the great consultant, until I got in touch with Him.
Yeah.
Right.
And y'all, this story goes, you can get even more background on the story in her book that she talked about. She mentioned a few of the items in the book and the story that went with it, and you can get all the way from her childhood all the way through, and these scriptures that have inspired her, and the messages and how she used each one during what situation that was happening in her life throughout this book. The story is beautiful. So thank you. To see a company with faith weaved in the culture and still be so inclusive and thrive is not, you don't always see that nowadays. So
well, one reason that we can do this with freedom is I didn't want anybody excluded, and I have a wonderful, wonderful Jewish agents, and at Christmas time, I didn't want them to just think we were celebrating Christmas and leaving them out. So at their Hanukkah time, we send them Hanukkah cards. We have menorahs in all the offices that we light the lights each day of Hanukkah. And then at Easter, we're preparing them now. David and I send out Passover cards. We send out Easter cards to our other agents. and they don't feel excluded. So therefore it gives us the freedom to express our faith because we are not excluding them.
That's right. She's using her faith to be inclusive of everyone and all of their faiths as well. So for all the other business owners out there or that are running offices and businesses, this is a great example of how you can fuse all of it together. So, I mean, kudos to you guys for being able to be inclusive and still lead by faith.
Yes, thank you. It's the most important part of our business.
So what advice would you give women entrepreneurs?
Well, first of all, if you are getting ready to go in any business, especially the real estate business, I would say, first of all, you have a plan. You create a plan. You got to have a plan. Got to have goals. You can't go on a journey without a map, so you need to create a plan. And then you need to find the finances, because you can't be worried about where your next meal is coming and grow your company. So you either have to get an investor or save your money or whatever to get the finances. And then you need to build a team. And you need to decide what your values are in business, what your culture, what you want your culture to look like. And build that team, because the team is going to carry on your dream. It'll multiply you and your talents. And decide what you're good. If you're good at finances, then find a good builder that's going to build a company and grow the company. If you're like I am, I felt like I was the people person and my husband was the numbers person, and he would say, just keep the agents from me. I just want to have these green eye shades on and take care of the money. He does not like to have to deal with the people problems or people challenges or whatever. And so, those four things: plan, build a team, get your finances, and decide what you're good at, because we all have gifts that God's given us, and we're going to be the most fulfilled. It will never be like a day of work if you're working the gifts that God has given you. Your spiritual gifts are what is going to give you fulfillment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's great advice.
I have the gift of encouragement. So when I encourage someone else, I just makes me feel so good to be able to encourage someone else.
Thank you so much. And sharing this knowledge with us as an entrepreneur myself and a woman business owner, hearing these four things and hearing what I need to do. I'm taking advice and notes in my head, like I need to do this. I
bet you've already done it.
So thank you. Great advice.
Yes.
You've mentioned a lot about, a few times, about your husband and your son-in-law. How have you been able to work with family and still provide opportunity for other people within your company?
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, David, my son-in-law, he's married to my oldest daughter. They have 5 children. And so many times we say that we actually do better as partners than we do with our married spouses sometimes. We're together during the day. We're longer times together. And, it's just a wonderful relationship we have. But when we started Jenny Pruitt and Associates, we'd been in business 5 or 6 years. He was in the banking business, and he was just growing up the ladder. I mean, they were getting ready to make him president of a new bank, and I said to Bob, we really need him in our company. If we're going to get him to come, we better go talk to him now, because he'll be so high up, he'll be the owner of the bank before we know it. So we talked to him, and he came in, and we worked together at Jenny Pruitt and Associates for 10 years before we started this company. He was president of that company. He's now, as of 2 years ago, president, CEO, founder of this company. I'm now moved to a more consultative role, and I am the executive chairman, founder. But David is so talented, and he is something different, kind of, because he is finance and people oriented, which is unusual. So he can do it all, and it's kind of like when he came on at Jenny Pruitt and Associates, he was my wingman. And now I'm his wingman or wing woman, whatever you want to call it, because it's kind of shifted, and that's been very interesting. And he's a wonderful person. He has a strong faith. It just fits right into the way that we operate a company is exactly the same. We agree almost on everything. I don't think we've ever had a fight in the 15 years we've worked here, or the 6 or 7 years that we worked at the other company.
Wow, that's such a blessing.
Yes.
to be able to work with your family, to have the vision and make a plan to say, he is the right person for the job. Let's get him now in the company before he goes to work for another company. That's part of building your team that she talked about, having a plan and being strategic, just putting those in play and then seeing what you've been able to grow a family started company to, and still family run company, and to create a succession plan. Right. Oftentimes with smaller businesses and boutique businesses, as you grow, and she's grown to 5 offices, over 550 plus agents.
Just one correction,
yes,
4 offices.
4 offices, forgive me, 4 offices.
550 agents.
550 plus agents. And you talk about succession planning and legacy and what that looks like and how you build your team and how do you still relinquish control and then still consult and be present and ensure that the same culture and values that you started are still within the fabric of the company, and putting the right people in place at the right time. Seeing that successfully done definitely gives so much inspiration to myself. I work with my spouse as well. He is in construction. He owns his own company, but we do work together on development projects, and we're in the same office. And so when you talk about seeing and doing business all day long, and then you have the spouse, the marital relationship, and then working together and how you work with your spouse, I am just looking and listening and taking notes and seeing that it can be done. And you can create a wonderful succession plan and grow a company with a legacy like that. That is really inspiring.
Well, we've already identified 2 of the 5 children.
Wow.
That could carry on.
I love it.
Yeah.
See, I love it. It's so much hope. So you are a published author, Beneath His Wings, painter. This story talks about your sacrifices, your tragedies, your loves, your triumphs. It is so many stories in this, from her childhood all the way through. And I am so moved by them and inspired. I've been trying to make sure I don't cry during this interview today. Tell us why it was so important for you to first start painting in what you paint, which is, I mean, the fact that it just came to you about, and God spoke to you about what you started to paint about. And then why was it important for you to pen, author this book to share your story with the world?
Well, I think I thought about the book because I wanted to leave something for my grandchildren, a legacy for my grandchildren, because you don't just sit down and talk about your life, from the beginning to where it is today with your grandchildren. They're not going to sit still that long. But I thought there's just good nuggets, and I wanted them to understand what faith, how to glorify God in their life, because it's very important to both my husband and myself that whatever we do, we feel like that it does glorify God. The meditations of our heart, the words of our mouth, be pleasing to Him, so the Psalm says. So that's why I wanted to write the book. But the angels, I didn't realize the angels would be on the cover, but a couple of years ago, it was during my prayer time and I was reading I read something in the Old, the New. I read a couple of books, just a little bit, a paragraph in the Old, the New Covenant every morning and pray. And I was surprised at how many times angels are mentioned in the book. And all of a sudden I had this great desire to go to an art store, buy a canvas, some paints, acrylic, and get an easel and start painting. But I wasn't sure what I was going to be painting. But when I stood in front of the easel, I heard a voice in my spirit say, Jenny, paint those angels. Paint those angels that I sent to be by your side on your first cancer journey. Paint those angels that walked beside you when you got your divorce. And I was in a physically abusive marriage. And so there were so many times that I felt like He sent me His angels. Just paint those angels. And I said, but Lord, I've never painted. He said, but you can paint angels. And I got up there and my hand just painted angels. That's the only thing I can paint. I don't do anything else. Just angels. And so when I wrote this book, It was going back and forth about what the name was. And so all of a sudden I saw the angels on the front cover. And then that morning I read a verse in Psalms that said, I will hide you beneath my wings. The Lord said that to David in Psalms. He said, I'll hide you beneath my wings. And I said, beneath his wings. That's what the name is. And then in another Psalms 91:4, it says that he will cover us with his holy feathers. So when you see my angels, it's kind of like they have feathers. Yes.
And she has some beautiful pictures in this book of her paintings and how she uses them to bless other people with her belief, with her prayers. And it's such a gift that she gives to those around her with her paintings and how she uses them and prays with them as they're going through life's triumphs and life's tragedies and just hard times that we all go through. But every entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur, and especially women, y'all should pick up a copy of this book. This book is free of charge. There is no charge for this book. If you want a copy of this book, please reach out to Jenny at Atlanta Fine Homes and she will get you a copy of this book. It is a beautiful read. It is inspiring. It gives hope and can help and show you how your faith can get you through all of the times and you can achieve these successes that you set out to do. So thank you again for being here with me today. Thank you for sharing your story with our members and our community. Thank you for writing this book. And thank you for just touching our lives. You know, I didn't even know you prior to serving in leadership, and you were always an inspiration to me then. So
well, thank you, Karen. You're far too kind. And if anyone wants that book, just email me simply, Jenny, Jenny, at AtlantaFineHomes.com. That's all it is.
Thank you so much for tuning in today as we got to sit down with the Georgia legend, inspirational Jenny Pruitt for Women's History Month. Don't forget to email her to get a copy of her book, Beneath His Wings. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next chat. Bye now.